So I'm back at the Camaro, Project Camaro again. Been chasing another thing for probably a month and a half on and off. If you have a first gen and you can't quite get it to not want to wander, mine was actually pulling to the center or to the left. So you take your hands off the wheel and it kind of just want to go into oncoming traffic. That drives me nuts. I'm okay with a little bit of wander to the outside. That's a lot safer. I prefer just to cruise right down the road like a modern car. But that one has started, I think it was at least a month, maybe 2 months ago, and I finally figured it out. So I figured I'd share quick. It's not going to be a whole lot of how-to instructions. I will throw just some generics on how to do the physical part of it. But mostly this one was trying to chase that issue of it just wanting to wander. I had a previous video with me buying some alignment plates. I always chalked it up to when I was doing all the break-in and testing on it. The car, once it was assembled, never got a real alignment. So I said, it's just alignment. That's what it is. No problem. Got alignment plates, started playing with it. Made a big difference. There was some minor adjustments, but it wasn't so far out that it made a lot of sense what it was doing. Recently, I did a gear change in the car, rebuilt the whole rear end and axles and all new bearings and carrier and all that stuff. I typically don't go much over about 55, 60, but when I'm checking gear set and all that, I want to make sure that it's good up to 65, 70 interstate speeds. And notice I got a little bit of vibration. So I was like, okay. So I've been chasing that pinion angle, finally got that squared away. But I noticed at higher speeds, the faster you go, the more it kind of wants to pull. So that got me right back onto the hamster wheel of chasing alignments. I've tried everything. I've read countless forums. I got the original manual from GM on these things for alignment specs. There's different alignment specs for bias ply tires and radial tires. And if you're trying to road race it, I've tried literally every recommended spec on it within usually a degree plus or minus of what they're recommending. And I still could not get rid of the stinking wander on it. I've checked toe. I even ordered toe plates to make it easier for me. I've just kind of been throwing darts at the wall and finally came to the conclusion, which is actually the fix for this thing, which is awesome. I'm super happy, but hours and hours of reading and testing and make a change, drive it, make a change, get mad, put the car away. Here's your video on hopefully a fix if you're having that same issue. For about $130, you can get a set of tubular upper control arms. They're not Ride Tech or, main crazy $700-800 control arms. I'm not drag racing it, doing wheelies. I'm not road racing it. So for a test, I figured I'd get a hold of just the cheapos off eBay. The one thing that kept popping up and I kept reading is a lot of the modern cars, a lot of the racing cars, caster is a big deal. With your stock upper control arm, you can maybe get like a degree or two of positive caster, just because you have to basically take shims from the front pack of the control arm, move it to the rear. You really can't get much positive caster. So I figured, these control arms say they have a 4-degree positive caster. I'll show you what caster is here in a second. Basically, that's just if the spindle is leaning forward or backwards. So I'll show you a diagram. But anyways, I figured for as cheap as it is, I'm not going to go ahead and spend $700-800 on big brand name, crazy, whatever, and have it not work and still chase front end part. Maybe I had to do a subframe because it's bent. That's another thing. Went back, double checked alignment on the subframe. It's been a process. But let me show you here real quick what I'm talking about and how they did it on these control arms. I do have them installed already. This extra set is from a full set of upper and lowers that I ordered because the seller said that they were stock ride height, which they're not. Don't believe them. I went through it. I'm in the process of fighting these people to return them. Different story. But let me show you these control arms quick. Just the uppers is what I ended up doing. And I cannot believe how straight this thing drives now. I can 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour go down the road, put my hands up, car tracks like a 4th gen. It's, yeah, I would have spent, you know, I would have easily spent $500, $600, $700 if I would have known for sure this was the fix. But let me get to these arms here quick, and I'll show you a couple tricks on the install, and hopefully this one helps out at least a couple of you guys. I tried to line up the tubular arm as darn close as I could to the mounting locations. It's probably gonna flip on me. To the stock control arm that I have out. And what you can see is how different the mounting location and angle of the upper ball joint is compared to the original. You know, this thing's originally sloped back and it's actually shifted to the rear of it. The newer ones are basically flat and a lot to the other side. So that's the main difference on where you're getting that positive caster compared to the original. I just, again, can't believe how much difference that made in just making it feel like a modern vehicle. With the Borgeson steering box and everything, I swear this thing, if I close my eyes, it's like driving my 2001 SS around. So that is the main difference that you're going to see. These are actually a little less quality than the ones I'm going to show in the description as a link. The welds aren't as good. Welds don't seem to have penetrated. These are just a cheaper arm, and I'm glad I didn't end up using them. But the ones that are on the car, they're pretty stinking legit. So I have a nylon bushings and all that's nice. It's greasable, obviously. The welds you can actually see are halfway decent looking. They got good penetration on these. They're obviously just robotically welded, whatever, at a factory. But yeah, this one is now a street driving machine where I can be confident and it feels so much more positive. The installation on this thing was super simple. If you're not real familiar with it, it's basically 2 wrenches and a hammer. You know, 11/16 for the nuts at the control arm mounting point, and a 3/4 inch wrench for the nut for the upper ball joint. Smack the knuckle of the hammer or use a fork, bing, you're off and running. One thing I did want to mention, I got a big block, so it's pretty tight in there. The studs do just press in or press out of the frame, the subframe itself, so you don't have to remove the headers or anything. I just used a piece of steel, got it in there, kind of heavy steel, and just kind of smacked it. They're just lightly pressed in. You can even spin them if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Tap them out, control arm falls right out, new ones bolt right in. Check your alignment and off and running. I'll show you the studs that I'm talking about here quick. And this car, one thing to mention is it does lower the car just a touch, because changing the ball joint, you can see the pitch of it and the angle of it. This is a 2-inch drop spring. So I'll show you the final ride height. It lowered it probably 3/8 of an inch, maybe half of an inch, which the BMR springs and everything I used front and rear actually worked out perfect. I couldn't be happier with the ride height even, because I always felt like it sat just a little too tall in the front with the tire combo I got. I'll do a side shot of this thing real fast and we'll wrap this up. The tube control arms make it super easy to see. You can lift that stock control arm up and actually see that right in there is, I believe it's a 5/8 size, that this is the stud I was talking about. And it's just knurled to stick into here. So you can just tap it on this side, stud pops right out, bang, bang, it's done. Stick a floor jack underneath it, just keep the spring in place under the lower control arm and you're rocking and rolling. But as far as the ride height goes, it nailed it. It was always bothering me, just being a touch too high, just a little bit more gap up front than the rear. I like mine to sit a little bit more aggressive. And of course the dirt bike's in the way, but I mean, I couldn't be happier with it. So if you're fighting this kind of issue, just take the very, very cheap gamble, see if that fixes it. Those alignment plates, the video I posted earlier, they're worth their weight in gold. I would highly recommend a set of those as well. The turn plates, you don't have to use if you want to just roll the car back and forth, set in tow, but hopefully this saves at least one of you guys a hell of a lot of hassle. because I know I pulled my hair out for multiple weeks trying to get her. I forgot to mention 2 last little tips here quick. With the cheap control arm, it comes with cheap ball joints. I highly recommend throwing these things in the garbage where they belong. I don't trust who knows what brand cheesy ball joint on my car. I go with Moog. I really like the Moog brand. That's what I personally run. Or a Delco. Can't go wrong with them. And also the alignment spec. Take this with kind of a grain of salt, because the way that you zero these digital protractors, I used a 4-foot level and just get the bubble as darn square as you possibly can with this sitting in the middle. Then you hit the 0 button. It's not scientific, it's close. My passenger side I got set at 1.7. My driver's side I have set just a touch less to account for the road curvature. Kept reading that over and over again. It's right around 1.58, 1.6 negative. So that's what I currently have that works for my car. It could be a half a degree off. It could be closer to 1. It's definitely not on the other side. You know, you don't see the wheels sitting. But I want to just kind of mention my numbers that I used, how I set this up and zeroed it, just so you can, if you're doing this yourself, kind of mimic what I'm trying. If you do have some kind of really weird, sketchy feel, it's probably because our measurements are off. You might need to adjust accordingly, re-zero this thing, that kind of stuff. Or worst case, these kind of systems are for most people just to get it close enough to drive to an actual alignment shop with an alignment rack, and they can get you squared away. But either way, thanks for watching. I hope it helps anybody out there. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, even a subscribe, and I'll keep on trying to post some of the really weird things that takes me quite a while to figure out. And hopefully it helps cheat off a couple weeks and hours in the garage for you. Thanks for watching.